Traders, how are you? With Marcello, founder of the Day Trading Academy. Today we're doing the recap of what happened in the markets last week. This week we have the biggest IT outage in history. We also have one of the previous CDC directors saying that they underreported the adverse reactions to the, thing in your arm from the pandemic. And also your cancer risk is actually more than half what your actual lifestyle choices is. Let's go ahead and get started. The biggest IT outage in history. It was huge. China. It came from China. It was huge. So I figured I had to do the thing. Biggest IT outage in history, according to experts. There were major airline outages, grounded all flights, 911 and 911 and emergency services grounded as well. Grounded, but you know what I mean. Major banks, media, and airports affected as well. Rail services in the US and the UK, and even payment systems. There was actually something really funny that I saw. There was a picture in a store and it said, only cash. And I thought it was really ironic because how are you going to pay with your Bitcoin when there's no systems to be able to allow it? Friday, the IT glitch affected 36,000 flights globally. They were delayed. 4,000 were canceled. And overall, the exchanges in the United States were mostly negative. The Communist Republic of Canada went up 0.26%. And the NASDAQ actually had its worst day in 19 months on Wednesday. In other news, more than half of the cancer deaths in the United States are results of your lifestyle choices. Smoking is the number one modifiable risk factor. They say that nearly 20% of all cancer cases and 30% of cancer deaths come from smoking. One of the things that I would actually be really interested in, for example, I'm gonna go into a little deep dive here. But I have a friend who switched from not eating meat anymore. He went to veganism, right? Or vegetarian, vegan. I don't know which is the difference. But anyway, he said, no, it's really bad. It causes cancer, blah, 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 blah. And I just looked up. I said, well, what are the highest consuming meat countries in the world? And the number one is Hong Kong. And then I went in and I listed it the longest living countries in the world. And that was people in Hong Kong. So don't necessarily pay attention to everything they tell you. I'm not saying that smoking is good for you. That's not what I'm saying. But there's a lot of things I think now, especially with our health system in the United States, that you probably shouldn't do, right? Another thing, for example, that I find really peculiar is they always say that you should put sunscreen on, but the majority of cancers are on your legs. So why isn't it on your arms, for example? See what I mean? Like, the same thing with the climate change thing. It's like, well, if we have to stop all our climate stuff, right? You can't cook pizzas in oven anymore because it's bad for the environment. But they're not talking about China and India. China and India opening up 1 to 2 coal plants per week. So while we are suffering, the world is still going to be destroyed because China and India are just allowed to open up coal power plants, which apparently are really bad for the environment. See what I mean? Just ask questions. The former CDC director says that the FDA, the two health departments in the United States, underreported adverse side effects from the thing in your arm from the pandemic to prevent the hesitancy of taking it, with good news because everything they told us about it was absolutely wrong. And another Biden achievement, the interest payments on the debt in the United States is now the second largest spending category in the entire U.S. budget. So first is Social Security, which is basically bankrupt because they took all that money too. The second is net interest on the debt. And then the third is health. Overseas market news. European markets are mostly lower. Looking at the numbers here, the Euro stocks, I believe that's out of Amsterdam, they went down almost 4.50%. Latin America, most of the markets were lower. The biggest exchange and market in Latin America, Brazil, went down 1% even. Africa and the Middle East, mostly mixed. Saudi Arabia was the biggest winner there. And then in the far East, Asia, Australia, that whole section, the Hang Seng in Hong Kong, the biggest loser, over 5%, but most of the markets were mixed. Bitcoin and crypto news. Bitcoin surged to a 2-week high on Monday after the attempted assassination on Trump. He's pro-crypto. So a lot of people basically are saying, well, since they didn't actually kill him, he has a lot more likely to win now, even after the attempt of the assassination. And since he's pro-crypto, let's make it run, baby. Bitcoin higher this week by over 14%. I believe it got to about 66,000 or so. I didn't write the number correctly, so excuse me if I don't have the number right as of Saturday morning. And the Bitcoin, highest level since June 18th. Commodities and energy, the UN International Seabed Authority, they have a department where they talk about the seabed. I'm serious. May consider new rules that allow companies to mine the ocean floor. People for mining the ocean floor are saying that it's for economic and it's for economic reasons. We need it because we're making this transition to climate-friendly energies, and we need a lot of nickel and cobalt. Or people against it, the environmentalists are saying you're going to destroy ecosystems and also migratory routes in the ocean. U.S. crude down almost 2.60% to 80.13. Brent 2.90% negative to 82.63. Gold hit a new record high on Tuesday, as high as $2,470.10 an ounce. The rally comes as inflation is reportedly slowing, and that has the expectation now that the central bank of the United States is going to start lowering rates, which means essentially less demand for the dollar. That would drop the dollar, and everything listed in dollars should go up, and obviously gold and silver. There's a bit of a fear aspect to it as well, due to the fact that a lot of people are thinking that the dollar is going to go down in value quite a bit because of the economic situation in the United States. Not economic situation, the budget situation in the United States. Gold for the week down 0.38% to $2,401.80, while silver is down over 5% to $29.30. I looked at the chart. You guys know silver's my market. I think it might come down between $24 to $27 or so, 24 to 26 maybe. But that's not trading advice. That's just talking about the markets. Don't consider it good trading advice. Political news. Trump won officially the Republican nomination for the 2024 presidential election in the United States. He did also report that he's going to select J.D. Vance for vice president, a Republican. I believe it was from Ohio, a senator. He's 39 years old, almost half the age of Trump. Economic news. China is growing much slower than before. Remember that China still is the second largest economy in the world. They grew at 4.7% in quarter two. Missed analyst forecast. That is not huge. China is the worst. Protracted property downturn starting to hit the economy quite a bit. And one of the dynamics that we have to understand is, remember that most of the industrialized world, the Communist Republic of Canada, United States, all of the Socialist Republic of Europe, the Communist Republic of Australia, Japan, most of our wealth is in the stock market. So it's not based a lot on property, even though a lot of people do have property. That's not what I want to say, but you guys know what I mean. In China, it's completely different. Since their stock market is new, most of the wealth isn't in the stock market, it's in property. So with this huge downturn in the property, it's hitting the economy really hard. And also it's affecting retail sales, because obviously if people don't think they have money, they're not going to go out and spend money, right? Because as China continues to develop as an economy, a bigger chunk of the economy is going to be consumer spending, like most of the other industrialized countries. For example, the United States is almost 70% consumer spending. I believe China, if I remember correctly, was about 40, and Germany's at 50. That right there is top, three of the top four economies in the world. So their retail sales grinded to an 18-month low. Property crisis deepened in June, and new housing prices, the new home prices, fell by 9 at the fastest pace is 9 years. And the sales of the properties based on the area, like square meters or square feet, went down 10% also. 19%. So that's quite a bit. U.S. industrial production rose faster than expected in June, eased off its pace in May. Its output was about 0.6%, which was double what the estimate was. And June new housing construction came in better than expected as well. It was about 46,000 or so higher than what they expected. On Monday, corporate news, BlackRock, the largest hedge fund in the world, it now has a new record of the amount of money that they're managing, $10.65 trillion in quarter two. This is a huge... Are we over it now? We over it yet? They vowed to make a move to Basically, what's happening is, since they're already the largest, the stock continues to explode to the upside, all the exchanges. So obviously the value of what they manage is continuing to go up as well. They were at about 9.43 trillion a year ago. Elon Musk said that he's going to move the headquarters of both of his companies, SpaceX and X, previously Twitter, from California to Texas after the Communist Republic of California vowed to not tell parents when a child has decided to make a gender change, an identification change. So a lot of people, analysts and people online, political commentators say that, they're going to state basically want to run your child instead of the parents. And so a lot of people are not very happy about that. Thursday, Beyond Meat stock fell over 10% after there was a report of debt restructuring. Nobody wants to eat that garbage. It's horrible for you. So just eat real meat. Remember, the longest living people in the world, Hong Kong, are the highest consumer of meat, so it can be bad for you. And Monday, Apple went up 1.67% after there was a report that a hedge fund called Loop Capital, they gave them a giant buy rating and said that the upcoming future of AI integrations, Apple could have a huge competitive advantage due to the fact that they have the huge platform in the iPhone. Their sales in India also grew by 33% to a record $8 billion. And their stock is up 38% in the past 3 months, about 21% so far this year, 2024. CrowdStrike was the company that caused the outage due to an upgrade that went down by 11% on the news that they're the ones that destroyed the world for a morning. And Truth Social, which is Trump's parent, Trump's company, basically like a Twitter rival, ex-rival, he surged 31% after the intended assassination on him. Many analysts argue that it's going to boost his odds to win the presidency, as I mentioned earlier. And in international events, Germany now is planning to have the military aid to Ukraine. There's also a concern that the United States, if Trump wins, is going to remove the aid as well to Ukraine. So it looks like Zelensky now, instead of buying mansions and Ferraris, is going to look to do a peace deal with Russia. Interesting facts: a ceiling limestone cave. Inside, they found an artwork in Indonesia, the island of Sulawesi. I hope I said it right. But they dated the artwork back to 51,200 years ago, and now it's the world's oldest known cave painting. Pretty interesting. And that's the nuke for this week, guys. If you guys have any questions, it was huge. And remember, preppers are right.